I come from an industrial design background, which is, if some of you have heard of that, that's we probably went to the same classes freshman year in undergrad. The architects in this room. But then, we kind of switched tracks a little bit as industrial designers, and we go and work with manufacturers. So when I go and work with a manufacturer, they have an idea in their head of what they want in their Revit content. So I ask them, well, what do you think is important? And quite often they'll say, well, we want all of the features, we want all of the detail. And the reality is that they're not architects, they don't use Revit, they don't necessarily know why things are the way they are in Revit. Now, can I get a show of hands, who uses Revit every day? All right, so this is an awesome group for this. And what I'd like to do is, I don't know if you guys get to talk to the manufacturing companies one-to-one, but what I'd like to see is an open dialogue where the people who use Revit, you guys, can come to us and you can say, here's what we find valuable, here's what we're trying to do. And so my talk today is going to be a little bit about that. But the other important thing is, let's see if we can get this to work here. Designing for the future. So, what do I mean by designing for the future? So we've been using Revit for 10, 15 years maybe, and in some ways we're still getting up to speed, especially us manufacturers. We're trying as hard as we can to build this content the way that you need it. When I'm building the content, I'm looking for ways to make my content better than another manufacturer's content because I want you to buy my product. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say, what are you trying to do? What is your job? What are your goals? The other thing I'd like to point out is today, October 21st, is the day that they travel back to in Back to the Future 2. So just be aware of that as we're going through this. It'll be important later. So, and we might have to strip this out of the video later in case this becomes a copyright issue. But, Back to the Future 2 actually has nothing to do with this slide, except that it's awesome. Also, I want to talk a little bit about how we engage with end users, so you guys. And some of the ways that we can do that is try and figure out how I can build the tools so that they get out of the way and they let you do what you're trying to do. So many times you look at the manufacturer's content and you can see they're trying to do something cool. They're trying to, try out a new feature. But the problem is, they often lose sight of what the end user is trying to do. The other thing that we want to focus on is how can we save you time? How can we increase your productivity? So, looking at your pain points as you're going through the process, optimizing the content for what you're trying to do. So, we're going to travel back in time, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. We'll come back to the whole time travel thing, but just keep that in the back of your heads. Another thing that we're going to look at is moving data into and back out of Revit. And one of the things this is going to do is it's going to improve accuracy. And this is, by the way, this is something that many of you are already doing. But I'm going to show my idea of what that means. And then what I'd like is I'd like people to raise their hand and say, well, actually, this is how we do it. And so this is actually a chance for me to do a little bit of user research. And then we'll also touch on creating an automatic BOM and what that can do for you. If you're already doing that, great. We'll talk a little bit about project specification and documentation. And I'm going to need some help from the audience to understand how you're doing that. So I'm going to talk about the moving data into and back out of Revit real quick. And I'm thinking about Back to the Future too. I remember Doc pronounced this 1.21 gigawatts, and I'm thinking back, that's not how you say that word. So this is a concept that I came up with, and this is something that it's more of a proof of concept. So this isn't necessarily something that's ready for prime time. But what I'm doing is I'm taking data, and I'm taking data from servers and from equipment in a telco room, in an office building. And I'm taking that data and I'm importing it into Revit. So if you look at the colors here, these are actually representing, it's a visual representation of some data. And we're using the actual sensors in the equipment to pull some data. We're putting it into a JSON formatted database, and then we're bringing that into Revit. And one of the ways that we're able to do that on a very low volume production level is I'm using Dynamo. How many of you have used Dynamo? Awesome. So we've got maybe a dozen people who are actually using Dynamo. And if you look at my screen here, you'll recognize, the Dynamo users will recognize the yellow boxes because that shows you what you're doing wrong. At some point you get everything resolved, and it's just like programming, except you don't have to use any code if you don't want to. It's awesome. So the idea of being able to move data into and back out of the Revit models, and maybe even automating some of that. And once again, the whole idea is to improve the workflow, streamline what you're trying to do, get rid of the pain points. And so let's talk about manufacturers. I work for a manufacturer. We've got, on the left, we've got the engineer. On the right, we've got the product manager. As a manufacturer, these are the people who own the product. And this is wrong. Because we're not focusing on you. We're not focusing on what you do. So what I want to do is I want to get past that. It's great that we've got very talented engineers, and it's awesome that we've got product managers that can go out and understand the product requirements and build great business models. But here's what I want to get to. These are the people that matter. These are the engineers, the contractors, the architects. These are the people that I care about. And these are the people that I want to build my Revit content for. So if you think about it, whenever you're building any product, doesn't matter what it is, if it's actually going to be something that sells, it's got to fall in the middle. It's got to be somewhere right there in the middle. So the very, very, very first thing you have to do is think about desirability. What do people want? What do people need? And sometimes it's obvious. Sometimes it's just a matter of, maybe it's something you personally run into. Maybe it's a problem that you have empathy for. But sometimes it's not obvious. The quote that comes to mind, and this is overquoted at this point, so pardon me, but the Henry Ford quote, if I had built what customers wanted, I would have built a faster horse. Which turns out, according to Wikipedia, that may not actually have been Henry Ford, but who cares? The point remains. The latent needs, the things that people don't know how to identify or express, they're problems, they're very real problems, but they're not as obvious. So all of those can factor into desirability. As an industrial designer, if I'm designing a new phone or designing a new video game console, that's where I start. I start from the customer need, and I work my way backwards. And sometimes that's at odds with where the engineers start, and so we have to meet somewhere in the middle. And I'm not going to start the conversation about engineers and designers being different. At the end of the day, we have more in common than we have differences. But the thing is, we need to focus on what the customer needs, what they're trying to do, what their pain points are, what motivates them. And then, once you can identify that, and you can walk backwards from the customer experience, then you can start to build a business case around technology. And you can start to build a business case around the feasibility of the viable, so the business logic. Does this make good business sense? All three of those things have to combine to have a good product, right? So this overhead infrastructure platform allows you to run cabling, it allows you to run power, and you can do this using your existing floor. You can use it on a raised floor, you can use it on a concrete floor. Very cool product. This is the very first BIM model I designed, and I built it like a transformer. It's got just so many features. So for instance, you can click on this parameter over here. And while it loads, I'll talk about some of what went into this. So once again, this is before I talked to any customers. This is before I had done any of the user research. I'm starting as an engineer, going from the engineering direction. And as a beginning Revit user, and an engineer, what I wanted to do was use all of the things. I wanted to use all of the features. So I built this model that it flexes, it configures itself. It's a transform. Now, is anyone using this? I actually don't know because we don't get metrics on that. I don't know how many people are using it. So let me undo and redo that so you can see it. So by changing that parameter, this transformer grows. Is that cool? Maybe. But really, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's cool or not. If people aren't using it, it doesn't matter. So then, a little bit further down the road, I'm talking to more people and starting to gauge a little bit more feedback and gain a little bit more empathy around what people's tasks are and what they're trying to accomplish. And so now I'm building a family of data port wall plates. And now I've got this relatively detailed thing, once again. But now it's starting to make more sense because people actually need these. They actually need to show them. They need to count them in their BOM. They need to configure them. You might only show it in an elevation view. I don't know, you might show it in a detail. I don't know how you're going to use it, so I'm going to build it for as wide a user base as possible. Now I've got, in this model, there's 250 different part numbers. And depending on the options that you select, you can select a color here. You can say I want ivory. And then you can configure the whole product around built-in types. You can say I want dual gang, single gang, and then it'll transformer into that thing, and it'll actually change shape and do all of that. You can say I don't want wall plate windows or whatever we call it, head ID windows, all that stuff. And the cool thing is, at least I thought it was cool at the time, maybe it's cool, when you go ahead and put this into schedule, that part number auto transformers into a part number here. So now we can actually use this data. How would we use this data? Can anyone tell me how would you use this? Who can tell me how you would use this data?
Specs.
Specs. Okay. Anyone else?
Pricing.
Sorry?
Pricing.
Pricing. Awesome. Anyone else? Install. Okay. Awesome. Install, pricing, specs. So, and 3 different people, 3 different answers, and we could go on and on. Now, is this of any use if it's just stuck in Revit? Anyone? So what do you have to do? You have to get it out of Revit. So how do you get this data out of here into something that's useful? Well, we can run through one workflow, and let's say we're going to constrain ourselves. We're going to say we don't have time to build software. We don't have money to buy software. So what are we going to do? We're going to use what we've got. We're going to figure it out. So I'm going to go ahead and export this data. Save it out as a CSV or whatever. Now the problem with workarounds is sometimes they're a little bit clunky, so you've got to bear with me as I click through Windows and find a file, open it up. I actually cheated. I had some data from a previous session in Excel. And what you can see here is you've got this data that we were looking at in Revit. And you're able to see the same data. You've got part numbers, you've got quantities, descriptions, dimensions. Some of the content even gives you an estimated weight. If you are interested in exploring different concepts, you're not going to do this one time. You're actually going to do this a number of times. So what does that look like? So now if you paste that data from our new design, you can see the chart update. Now I'll back that up and we can look at it again. So this is our original product, our project, and then we've updated our data, and now the chart is updated. So what is this to show? This is to show, once you get that data outside of Revit, you can do so much more with it than when it's stuck in a schedule. This is using out-of-the-box tools. Now there's a number of tools that are available from third parties. There's a number of tools from manufacturers and from even Autodesk themselves who will, these tools will allow you to extend this data and build off of it, take it into programs like Tableau. Who's heard of Tableau? Okay, awesome. So Tableau is a great way to visualize data because it takes all of the programming and all of the housekeeping stuff, brushes that out of the way so you can do what you're trying to do. That's a great example of user-centered design, which is what we're talking about. So this example, like I said, this is out of the box. Now what happens if you want to take this a little bit further? And by the way, I'm going to talk about our engineers real quick. The engineers at Leviton are awesome. And lately we've actually been getting awesomer. And we've been doing this by building design thinking into the engineering process. So when I'm talking about going out and meeting customers, I drag the engineers with me. And when I'm talking about brainstorming and building affinity diagrams and design proof of concept models that probably aren't engineering grade, I usually try and get the engineers involved. And then at the same time, I get to learn a lot from them. I get to learn their language. I get to learn what their needs and motivations and pain points are. So this is the engineers at my group, and we're using whatever tools we have at hand to build proof of concept models. In this case, we had half an hour to build a new connector. So bust out the Legos, open up the toolkit, and it's amazing what you can do in terms of brainstorming once you get up out of your seat and you start to move around and you start to collaborate. And this is part of what we're doing when we're exploring the design process. Now you're going to have to bear with me here. So I built a model. This goes against all the rules that you would ever want to follow. So I built a model of the US in Revit. Why am I doing this? Well, so I'm the user, and I get to
build this around my needs, my motivations. And in this case, I'm using Dynamo. So those of you who recognize Dynamo, you'll recognize this sort of layout. So what this allows me as a designer to do is I can get into the programming parts that my software developer friends are dedicated to, and I can start to get my hands dirty. This goes back to building prototypes. If I can open up that toolkit, bust out the Legos, now I can start to brainstorm with my hands, and now I can start to make some progress. And so when you're using Dynamo, you're actually coding. You're using a visual representation of code. Let's call it scripting. Okay, so you're scripting. And in this case, I'm designing around my motivations. I was recently in Pennsylvania. I was visiting some family. And the news, what everyone's talking about there is the hydrofrag. So let's see if I can find, okay, so this chart right here, this is from the US Energy Department. And this chart shows in the past 5 years, the kind of hockey stick style growth that the natural gas production has seen in Pennsylvania. So now I've got this story. I want to investigate it. I want to dig a little bit deeper, and I want to build a model in Revit to do that. So let's see if this actually works in a live demo. Let's see. Now I've got colors that are representing growth. So the natural gas production growth. When we're talking about collaboration, we're talking about moving data. We're getting this data and we're pumping it out of Revit, or we're gathering it. In this case, we're actually gathering this data from a JSON database on the EIA website. So we're using Dynamo and JSON, and we're digging up this data. We're running through. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but just for those Dynamo geeks in the room, I'll show you the Python code. I'm so excited. So I'm iterating through 50 times, and I'm grabbing the data. And then I'm traveling back in time, see what I did there, to 2000, what was 5 years, 2010, and I'm comparing that data from 2010 to 2015. And all of this is to tell a story. And this is my story for me, and now for you guys, for better or worse. So the idea of collaboration, and the idea of being able to do that with these tools that companies like Leviton and people like me build, and people like you build, and my dream is to see all of those things work together. And if we can get closer to that, then I'm happy. So when I started this talk, I was talking about streamlining workflows. So building an automatic BOM generator tool, generating project documentation. These are things that we can do today, but I think we can get better. I think we can do a better job. I showed you this example. I showed you the manual pulling data out of Revit, putting it into something else. Could be Tableau, could be Excel. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to get a show of hands. Who would like to see Leviton make that automatic? So you can do that data transfer, you can spec those things, you can build an order, and you can send it to your engineer. Who wants to see that? 2 people? All right, let me ask you this. What would you rather see? Are you happy?
I'd rather you teach us how to do it. How to do that.
Ah, you're the engineer and the architect. Yeah, the engineers that I work with, they don't want solutions that solve the problem. They want to be enabled. And that's awesome. That's awesome.
What other, anyone else? What would you like to see? If this isn't interesting, what is?
Models that can scale back, very detailed, to just a few blocks that are easily shown. They're smaller in size, that don't have to like edit family, and then leave a bunch of stuff that we don't really want to see.
Awesome.
Because then you have a bunch of those in the model, and it's the file size is so big, it manipulates poorly.
No, okay, so the comment was models that can scale so that if what you need is a small file that's just a block, you can have a much more efficient file. Is that right? And then if you want to use the fancy file that the manufacturers seem to like using, that has all the built-in market numbers and transformers and all that stuff, you can do that. Is that right?
Yeah, more standardization. The manufacturer has at least 3 different families. That one particular type one is a simple model, one a little bit more detailed, one full scale.
Okay, so we're talking about 3 separate models and design around the type of user.
Whichever one that we want to de-engineer or go from.
Got it.
Or
Usually like placeholder blocks.
Got it.
So your models are every user's name.
Okay. So, is there any appeal to having built-in part number generation so that when you configure your product in Revit, it pumps out along with the right part numbers?
as long as you make sure the part numbers are up to date.
Good point.
The biggest problem we have, we go with somebody that says we're going to use part number X, Y, Z, and they generate it from the manufacturer's cut sheet generator, and it highlights a bunch of numbers that you're supposed to straight into a part number. And I go down to the BIM portion of their website, and that part number website says.
We actually email them later because I want to talk about this today.
And it's not because they were just totally wrong, it's because the part number is changing year after year after year. And the software to generate cut sheet has to have the software that generates these.
So it sounds like there's more than one single source of truth. It sounds like there's the cut sheet generator, there's the BOM generator somewhere on a SQL server somewhere, who knows, and they don't get synced up. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. So
You should be designing for months, or years.
in one Revit model, So
So your entire knowledge base, product chain, discontinued. And that,
if you get,
Lighting electronics.
sorry, say that.
Lighting electronics.
Those are the worst culprits. Lighting and electronics are the worst culprits. So, all right, what if we had a button you press at the end of your 3-year project that goes back to our SQL server and says, are these correct? Would you use that? Got 1, 5, 6, 10, okay. All right. So do you guys, I mean, you have a chance to tell the manufacturer what we're doing wrong. Tell me right now. What's the
So I think more practical will generate a performance specification.
generator?
Generate like a performance specification rather than a part.
Okay.
So then through your process, the function of that device shouldn't change with the part.
Okay, so the comment is it might be better, rather than generating a part number, it might be better to generate a performance specification. So, and then of course, my product manager is going to say, well then, how's Leviton going to get locked into the spec process? And I might say, well, here's the data that users are not, they're not going to be happy with this. So I'm listening. Anyone else? I want to hear them.
Are you building your parts to be embedded into our plans? Like, what's the plan view of your data outlet? Is that represented as a typical data outlet in communication drawing?
Good question. Okay, real quick, I'm going to just zoom into this data center model that I have. Let's hop over to the plan view. Don't make fun of my plan views. This is an industrial designer trying to do a plan view. So here you can see I've got try a different one to see if it still shows up. So yeah, I've got it turned off here, and then I've got it turned on here. So this is what I'm using for. What is this for? Not sure I can select it, but data, phone, tell data. I don't know if.
That symbol in your family has 20 different representations associated with it. I need 20 different representations in plan to communicate each one of those.
That's good to know.
I mean, each one of those is a unique specific object and point that needs to be communicated.
So the comment is, in this plan view, this symbol doesn't do a good enough job.
Only represents the two points.
Right.
What about the four?
Do you care about colors? No. So yeah, that's a very good point. Now, would you use symbols, or would you use what's the Revit term? Keys or
Well, we have families that
symbol family? Annotation. We've got another.
I guess the point here is something I want to expand on what you said. The thing here is that from the engineering side and pushing further out to the construction side,
Most people.
I'm sorry, most of what people will be looking at is plan documents, not three-dimensional views. Maybe if somebody's assembling something, they'll pull out a three-dimensional view. But most of them are going to be looking at plans. We have this whole vast, every office has them, and they're sometimes all different, selection of little plan symbols that denote things like two gang, 4 gang, light with regular light, emergency light, just goes on and on and on. So that's from the viewpoint of the people of the engineers and contractors. Those are pretty important.
To expand on that, actually, in operations, the guys at the facility, what we keep hearing is, oh, we want a map model, oh, we want a Revit model, oh, we want, Cody, I'm going to say Cody, but, we want this ridiculous database. But what really is needed is a simple, open plan base or a list base, BOM that has the important data, so it's the correct product number, the correct legends for, that are black and white printable, and that are scalable, so that you can actually access it, so whether it's PDF or Excel or whatever. We've been sort of dealing with multiple standards for in various industries, or sub-industries, and disciplines that are looking at really interesting stuff to sort of create content that is usable. It's a 3D model or it's whatever, just a very interactive format that, at the end of the day, folks just want a really simple guide and feel version of it.
Now, when you I'm going to struggle to summarize your comment because there's so much valuable data in there. What I'm hearing is you would benefit from having that data, but having it in a format that's digestible.
Yeah.
So instead of a schedule that's got rows and tabs of really hard to digest things, you want it in a thing that in a format that comes out in PDF.
Well, you were sort of saying, the important thing right now is to have manufacturers and content creators talk to the end users. And the end users are, like you're saying, folks in the office with drawings. They're also the contractors installing, but the end user is also the real user, which is the owner.
Yes.
And the owners need kind of the same thing that we need, which is PDFs, Excel sheets, lists, things that are simple.
And
I think that's just
that's a really valuable point too. That the idea that we use Revit, but just because we use Revit doesn't mean that the owner uses Revit. It doesn't mean that the contractor is using Revit. And I forget that. I have to remind myself of that. And that's a really good point.
So
one thing I've noticed is that every manufacturer has different thought process behind their mechanical or pumps or whatever it is. And a lot of times when I'm looking at I'm going to develop some kind of schedule for the way to track this, water, whatever it is. I usually have to make my own plan, but I will plan I want, or I have to look at the manufacturer and see exactly what they call the planners and how it matches to what planner can actually do. And a lot of times it's like, and so part of the problem is there's standardized principles or concepts that all manufacturers do. So it makes it hard for so I got here that we have a view and I don't planners there and schedule all that and say we decide to use a different manufacturer's money. So you can't put it in the same schedule and why would we match it up?
And that makes sense. That's a good point. So the comment is around, if you spec in one product and say the building requirements change, for instance, and then you need another product to replace that, those they're not easily swappable. Is that kind of getting at it?
Not all planners will match the same way.
And that's actually a really good point. When I was just starting out in Revit 3.5, 4 years ago, I had to build my own type catalog from the ground up because no one wants to ship those. And so now my type catalog is going to be different from your type catalog. Or my parameter file is going to be different from your shared parameter file. So now we've got all of these different, trying to speak the same language, but we're using different words. And it's a challenge.
What I often do is maintain our own shared parameters file, right? And if I get families, whatever, I don't even look at the ones I have, I just put my shared parameter on to know schedule, whatever it be.
Interesting. Okay. Have you tried using any of the automation tools that some of the great developers make?
No, I haven't actually. When I looked into plugins for sale,
Okay.
on the basis,
Maybe our friends at Imagine can help steer us in the right direction.
there's another one I use for sale.
Okay. And I found some good tools that do that. If you want to email me later, we can exchange information. Because I want to hear more about your business.
So when I can tell the download is not, that's just it. So,
I know, yes, so are you familiar with the Revit API and how programs can use it to reach into Revit and move things around? Okay, so Dynamo has access to Revit API, and for the most part, it has access to everything you can do with the user interface in Revit. So if you can click a thing, you can do it in Dynamo. If you can change a parameter, you can do it in Dynamo. And it's actually really powerful. You can extend it with Python, you can extend it with, you can build Excel tables, the pivot, it's just awesome. So I encourage you to learn Python if you have the time. If you're not a programmer like I'm not, it takes time to get it up and running. But I think it's really powerful.
One of the comments I'll have about most manufacturers is most of our stuff is symbolic in nature. So when you put your little triangle, things about 12 inches wide, when you try to put it next to an outlet, then you really lose functionality of the real part. So when you find a manufacturer that doesn't have the ability to be able to manipulate along the wall, the symbol, stack and out the wall, and it's kind of
So how do you get around that? Or what do you do when you run into that? The comments, let me just reiterate the comments. So the symbols, we were looking at that triangle symbol. Sometimes those are, at the manufacturer's discretion. They can be whatever scale the manufacturer decided to make it. They'll follow whatever standard the manufacturer decided to follow. And the chances that that's going to match up with what you're doing are not very great. So how do you get around that? That's interesting. So would it be easier if the symbol wasn't even in there to begin with?
Well, in the example you showed, it's, like that. It's a backbone, it's the size of the backbone.
Right? And you care about that stuff.
And I care about that stuff, because if I have a 6-inch stud, and I'm using a 5-square box, I might not be able to get those boxes to go back to that. I might want to see where the boxes are at for coordination purposes.
Now, do you mind if I ask?
Boxes, so.
Right. Do you mind if I ask what trade or what background you're coming from? Electrical. Okay. So that's actually a really great example. And depending on not just what trade you're coming from, but what your role is, your needs are going to vary. And there's no one size fits all. So, and then.
Well, when you're talking about symbols, some of the trade associations do standardize them. There are offices use it up, but for instance, I know the current West End has a set of lighting symbols. Just about every office I know uses everyone. If you use the ISN symbols, at least you've gotten something that everybody's got in hand. And I don't know about even other industries probably talk about this more. But I'll bet that, for instance, NEMA has a certain amount of symbols for graphics. I'll bet the structural engineering people do. But you can always go to the standards organizations. They're often your friends.
But at the end of the day, you have to pick. You can't build for all of the standards. So.
There aren't many contradictions.
Okay. That's a good point. Okay, so how are we doing on time? Okay. Okay. So I'm going to start to wrap it up here. So as we're talking about this, all of these comments are going to factor into what I'm doing, because this is my chance to meet you, the stakeholders in this whole ecosystem. And what I'd like to invite you to do is, if you think of something, and it doesn't have to be specific to Leviton, it doesn't have to be specific to my presentation today, but just that email on the bottom right, just email me and let's talk about it, because the more we can open up this collaboration, the more we can get the feedback and ultimately get you guys the tools that we need. And the reality is, companies like Leviton and Imagine, we want to enable it. We want to build the tools that are going to make your job easier. We want to make you more welcome. I want to work with you. So I want to thank everyone here today. This is an awesome opportunity. And any other questions as we're kind of wrapping up? Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys.
So thanks, Ryan, for that. Robin, Chris, do you want to do any closing?
No, thank you. Let us know what we can do to support you guys in the future. I want to be relevant information to you, so let us know.
Yeah, so thanks again to Imagine for bringing Ryan and relevant information